And that leads us to Shedeur Sanders because, yes, everybody still has some kind of angle on this. There's a crusade here for Shedeur Sanders. You know, this should not be lumped in with Colin Kaepernick. Completely different. But you're getting analysts or hosts who are saying, oh, you know, Kaepernick was blackballed. I don't think Shedeur Sanders was, although Boomer Esiason did say on his radio show that owners were told to take him off their draft boards, told their people to take him off their draft boards. Okay. I don't think that's collusion, but, you know, it feels like people are trying to make this more than maybe you just had somebody who was not as good as we thought. Maybe you had those doing mock drafts who didn't do a good job on this. They basically whiffed on it, and they took Deion's word that his son was great. And Albert Breer, the Monday morning quarterback, is going to join us coming up. And, you know, he had some interesting things to say. And he said, you know, let's just have an honest conversation about Shedeur Sanders. And he said it starts with the team's evaluations of Deion's son, Shedeur, as a player. Tuesday before the draft, Albert Breer, the Monday morning quarterback, said that it wasn't easy to find coaches or scouts who viewed the Colorado quarterback as a first-round talent. He's not a great athlete. He didn't show great arm talent. Bad habits of taking unnecessary sacks. Bailing out of the back of the pocket. Had trouble playing on time in general. Did things off schedule. And they weren't going to translate to the NFL. Also, he did not take blame when asked about interceptions when he was interviewed by some teams. Okay. But did we think he was going to drop to the fifth? If we knew all of this, then why were we still banging the drum that he should be a top 10 pick, 15 pick, first-round pick, Steelers at 21? I mean, it was right there in front of us, wasn't it? It's the same thing with Johnny Manziel. Johnny Manziel, everything that was going on with him was right in front of us. It felt like we didn't want to ruin the story. Like the story was great, Johnny Manziel. And then if you realize the guy didn't love football. I think he was great at football. He cared about being a star. Didn't put in the time. Stuff that went on at Texas A&M. Thank God he had Mike Evans as his wide receiver. So it was right there. We sometimes have wishful reporting. And I don't know if people wished that Shedeur Sanders was going in the first round, but we certainly like the prospect of, could he go to the Steelers? What's Deion's relationship with Mike Tomlin? What about the Rams? Would the Rams go up and get him? Are the Giants going to go back into the first? So we created all these scenarios. And really, I think Shedeur Sanders needed somebody who was going to be honest with him. I think his son, or being the son of Deion, there is entitlement there. I think it's your team. You're able to do what you want. You're the quarterback. But are you as good as you think you are? Like you can tell us, and your dad can tell us. I just think that they probably needed somebody in their camp to say, I'm going to be honest with you here. Because you have a lot of yes men. If you're around celebrities, you're around actors, musicians, there's a lot of people who tell you what you want to hear. But you want to hear what is going to make you better, what is going to keep you grounded. He doesn't have an agent. And that agent might have been honest with Shedeur and just said, man, I don't want to be a buzzkill, but I'm not hearing good things about this or this or this. Hey, we got to be ready for this. Like that's what an agent does. I'm sure there are advisors there, but when Deion was with us at the Super Bowl, it certainly felt like he was the battering ram. He was the Trojan horse. He was going in. And he was going to tell teams, don't draft my son. Talked about the Cleveland Browns not wanting his son to go there. But I think if somebody would have been or should have been honest, then maybe he wouldn't have suffered a painful lesson. Now, he would have gotten humbled, but he would have at least been prepared. And then that's when you take the initiative. That's where you go, hey, I got things that I'm working on and will continue to work on. And I realize I'm not a finished product. I'm ready to go. Whatever Cleveland wants me to do, I'll do. I want to be the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. Like, at least if you push it forward and not be defensive or blame it on, scouts or people who didn't like Deion, whatever somebody's initiative is, I think just being honest. That's sometimes what you want to. There are times I don't want to hear things, but I'll hear things and I know that, Paulie will say, hey, don't want to be a buzzkill, but, and then he'll tell me something like, all right, I got to eat that. This is what Shedeur, I think, needed, because the truth is the best advice of all in a situation like this. And you get caught up in this. You're like being told, a lot of sycophants out there, they're going to tell you what you want to hear. Man, you're great. Man, you get those Giants cleats, man. You're going to the Giants, You and Malik Neighbors, you're going to be here. It's you, man. I mean, that's why you have guys who watch Entourage. When you see Entourage, they're telling Vinny Chase whatever he wants to hear. That's what this is. Deion, and maybe he had tough love for him and told him, hey, you got to stop doing this. Hey, you got to be in the moment. Hey, you have to listen to these people. Hey, you got to be prepared. I mean, I would think Deion would do that, but it certainly didn't feel like Shedeur Sanders went into those interviews trying to impress you. It's almost as if he came into those interviews to say, all right, you need to impress me. What do you got? And it doesn't work that way. Yeah, Paul.
It does feel a bit like a confluence of things. The first athletes of the NIL era who are making millions in college come in differently with a different tone, driving whatever cars they're driving, and maybe they don't play the game like they used to. But it seems like a couple things happened the past 24 hours. I don't know who said it the other day, but some teams never even looked at Shedeur Sanders because they didn't expect him to fall. So that takes a bunch of teams out that might have drafted him. Then Boomer Esiason said a few owners told their people, don't take him under any circumstances. That takes out a couple more teams. Now you're running out of possible landing spots where it doesn't really matter how many rounds you go. If those teams passed on you, they're not going to come back. Like, a couple things had to happen for this to happen.
Yeah, but I still go back to the Raiders. I mean, Tom Brady's known this kid for a long time. And he drafted a quarterback later on. So you can't go in it and go, hey, where's our bargain in the draft? So when you say, oh, this is collusion, why did Tom Brady pass on him? And they drafted a quarterback late in the draft. That's what I don't understand, because Tom has been around Shedeur Sanders, and Deion had him mentor his son. And they bypassed him a few times. I think, and I don't have confirmation on this, but I'm trying to get this, is there were a couple of teams that just didn't view him as a starter, but did view him as a quarterback in the NFL. And there's a big difference in that, because a lot of times you'll get the quarterback in the first round, but you don't get the quarterback until like the fourth or fifth round now. Jalen Hurts was a second-round pick. But, if you look back on some of these drafts, a lot of times you don't get the second-round, draft pick at that position, because you're either good enough to be in the first round or you're going to be later on because you're a backup quarterback. Now, some of these guys will take snaps as a starter this year. I truly believe there could be 3 or 4 of these quarterbacks who were taken later who will play this year in the NFL. But that doesn't mean they're first-round, talents. That doesn't mean they're a franchise quarterback, a starting quarterback. And I think that's what happened with Shedeur Sanders. He was a really good college quarterback. He got by with doing some things that he needed to really clean up on. And these are things that I told you about with arm strength, line of scrimmage, speeding things up. Being, having that clock in your head, and this is what is told to me by 2 scouts, and helped out by having Travis Hunter as well. Held on to the ball too long, didn't take blame when things went bad. But then I had one scout who said to me last night, his teammates loved him. Loved him. His energy, everything about it. And I'm like, okay, like there's just such a fractured, mixed message here. That's what I'm still trying to figure this out. But I do think, as I talked to a source last night, he's just not viewed as a starting quarterback A franchise quarterback was the word. But that's why he drifted, because he's a backup quarterback in some people's eyes. And I think, Cleveland going back in to get him, that felt like that was an owner doing Dion a solid there and his son. It really felt that way, whether that's true or not. And I think Cleveland was the right place for him. I really do. I think Shedeur Sanders will eventually be the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. Now, I don't know if he's great, but I still think that situation, and they owe $46 million to Deshaun Watson this year and next year. Congratulations.